action plan. So allow me to focus more on the multi-stakeholder forum and what we've been able to achieve. So this, as I've said, it brings together different actors of a co-created, collaborative, and inclusive process. And over the last 11 years, we've been able to make policy and legislative recommendations. We've been able to develop tools that facilitate access to information and public participation, courtesy of institutions such as the Commission on Administrative Justice and Article 19. We've come up with model laws and capacity building on access to information. We've been able to develop open portals to enhance open contracting. But most important, in the course of this implementation, we've built a multi-stakeholder forum that continues to be an envy across the world. We are amongst the first countries in the world to have a parliamentary caucus on SDGs that signifies just how important legislative and policy development are to enabling open government partnership. We are also the first country, amongst the first country, and I believe the only country now that brings together the three arms of government in OGP, judiciary, the legislature, and the executive, but also the highest number of open OGP local, the counties at national level. We currently have 6 counties that are members of OGP local, and Your Excellency, allow me to say that during the recent call for applications, we had a record number of 7 counties applying to join OGP local. I think we deserve a bit of recognition for that. Our early adoption and expansion of OGP local has also ensured that the multi-stakeholder co-created space does not just exist at national level, but also exists at the county level. Another big achievement has, of course, been peer learning and exchange programs. And as countries across the region, Ghana, Malawi, Morocco, Sierra Leone, and others have been keen on joining OGP, the Kenya Multi-Stakeholder Forum has provided this leadership and model that other countries can embrace. Inclusion and diversity, expansion of the actors. I dare say we were amongst the first people to start talking about a broad-based multi-stakeholder forum, which is what we've been implementing for the last 11 years or so, because we have women, we have young people, we have counties, we have national government, we have academia, we have private sector, and over time, increasingly, as you go through the 5 action plans, you'll see that the number of actors continue to expand, signifying just how important this is to enhancing transparency and accountability. Your Excellency, we recognize that across the world, there are issues that continue to face governments, continue to face private sector, continue to face academia and others. And key amongst these is the issue of declining public trust. We need to bridge the gap between citizens and governments, citizens and civil society, citizen and media, citizens and academia. And the OGP platform provides this opportunity to not only trust build, but also enhance youth inclusion, transparency, and accountability, and as well as meaningful public participation. I think some of the challenges that we face now is because in some cases citizens feel that they're not being listened to. We believe that by ensuring that all voices are on the table, OGP provides that very powerful mechanisms. And so without taking too much time, I'm not going to call upon Mushiri to take us through the 9 commitments. And again, take this opportunity to thank you very much for your support, and to also thank the development partners here present that have made this work possible. Without their support, we wouldn't have done this, and the government support. Thank you very much. Excellency.
Your Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, this is Kenya's most ambitious action plan ever. We are looking at a 5th action plan that is as responsive to the realities that we are living in like no other action plan has done before. So your leadership and that of the civil society partners and others who've been part of this, including input from the general public, is to be credited for this document. So maybe I shall start with the first commitment in action plan, which is a brand new commitment that made it into the framework in this fifth action plan, and that's our commitment on climate action. As you are all well aware, this is one of the largest crises that is facing our planet, and we are seeing the results of that in our own country. So promoting participatory development and enhancing transparent monitoring of conservation interventions, making sure that the data and the technologies that are being used are responsive is a big part of this commitment on climate action. The next commitment is on digital governance. Your Excellency, this administration has been very ambitious in rolling out digital services. We now have thousands of digital services rolled out by national government agencies as well as county governments. This commitment seeks to put in place the enabling environment to ensure that we have inclusive, secure, trustworthy digital services that are supported by the right policy environment. And this is also a brand new commitment within the OGP action plan framework that the country has been implementing. The third is the Open Data for Development commitment. This is the third time that we are rolling over. It has had some commitments before and some milestones have been achieved. This is led by the Kenya Space Agency, so you have strong support and strong presence from the Department of Defense, which is a new institution within the context of OGP. And we have a lot of commitments there that really strengthen the proactive disclosure of data, especially around budgets, expenditures, GIS information, all of this to support increased accountability and participation and address the issues that we are facing as a country, as Carol mentioned, on bridging that trust deficit. The fourth is on beneficial ownership transparency, and this is an advancement of existing work under your leadership and the leadership of the Business Registration Service, Attorney General's Office. We were able to get to a beneficial ownership legal framework, and this now puts us in a situation where we can advance our ambitions around beneficial ownership so that the ownership of institutions and the people behind the contracts becomes less invisible as part of our efforts to build trust and accountability. Our fifth commitment is on open contracting. Again, this is an advancement of work that has been going on. I'd like to recognize the advancements that have been done already by the National Treasury, the work that is being currently done around the Electronic Government Procurement System, EGP. This commitment brings a global standard on open contracting to the EGP system to make the data more available, more consumable, and also to bring around more stakeholders on the public procurement transparency framework. So this is an important commitment, just as the others are, but it does build on very strong gains that have been made in the recent years. The sixth one is on public participation, legislative and fiscal openness. This is some of it is an existing commitment that we've worked on over the years with the leadership of Mzalendo and the Senate. It has some very ambitious commitments around putting in place a very strong legal framework for public participation in this country. We currently do not have a national framework for that, and this commitment aims to deliver that. But it goes a bit further and includes fiscal openness in the context of debt transparency. So, Your Excellency, this commitment supports your efforts and efforts of this administration to ensure that the conversation on debt and the amount of money that is in play is not a subject of misinformation, but is subject to evidence that is available. So the transparency around this is going to be an important part for the next few years. And commitment number 7, access to information. We have had great success with access to information because of the OGP. The Access to Information Act was a result of the work done by the OGP community in 2016. This Access to Information commitment advances this much further by ensuring that the regulations that have been passed, the enabling framework, is now supported by a more ambitious rollout across the country. And this includes the model laws that Carol alluded to and how they are eventually incorporated in our county governments. Our eighth is access to justice. As Carol mentioned, this commitment was birthed out of the COVID crisis and the fact that many could not access justice because of the restrictions that had to be in place to save all our lives. However, on the other side of that commitment, we realized that it was actually addressing issues that continued to plague citizens in their pursuit of justice. And this operationalizes the alternative justice system policy and the legal aid framework. And it does aim to bring a bit more accountability and improved financing to the judiciary in order to make sure that access to justice reaches the most vulnerable of our populations, regardless of where they are, using all technologies and approaches that are appropriate. Our 9th commitment in this action plan is on resilience. Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, a lot of what I've talked about can sound very nice and very beautiful and probably be done within a year, and then we all go back to default settings. The access to justice commitment and the beneficial ownership and open contracting, a lot of these commitments have made it this far because they had an enabling framework around them. The government resilience, building open government resilience commitment ensures that we are not just putting in place commitments on paper, but we're also putting in place the institutions and the legal frameworks and the financing to make sure that we can continuously deliver on the promises we're making in the 5th Action Plan. Part of this includes the enactment of a framework to put in place a National Open Government Council, and it calls for the gazettement of a number of institutions. And across this 5th Action Plan, you will find that there are a lot of areas where support is needed from the Parliament of Kenya to make sure that we have the right legislation, to make sure that each one of these things can last beyond us all and serve the generations to come. Thank you very much.
Let's put our hands together for Mr. Nyaga. Thank you very much. Your Excellency, on that matter of resilience, one of the asks from this community or from this program is for the need for sustainability. OGP has been run sort of in a fairly ad hoc fashion with no institutional anchorage, and they are requesting, Your Excellency, that you institute a national OGP council that brings together a range of these stakeholders to be able to provide leadership to the process. Your Excellency, it's now my pleasure to invite Ed Burnett, who represents Development Partners. He's the Deputy High Commissioner, United Kingdom. You're welcome.
His Excellency, the President, distinguished guests, all protocols observed, good morning. It's a great honor and pleasure to address this gathering today on behalf of the United Kingdom. And congratulations to all on the upcoming launch of Kenya's Open Government Partnership 5th National Action Plan, and on Kenya's co-chairship of the partnership this year. The UK was a founder member of the Open Government Partnership, as we have heard, established in 2011. Open governments are vital to any democracy and ensure citizens are best served by those they elect. The presence of Your Excellency the President, senior members of the Government of Kenya, and the number of partners in this room is testament to the importance and convening power of this partnership. And I can assure you all that the Open Government Partnership has had a really positive impact on the UK government and how it delivers for the people of the UK. To give one example, as a result of the partnership, all new central UK government contracts and tenders worth over £10,000 are placed on a single website, enabling the public to hold government to account for our spending and performance. In Kenya, the UK is delighted to have supported the development of the 5th National Action Plan and today's launch event. It has been fantastic to work with the government and Mzalendo and many others in this room on this important endeavour. As we have heard, much has been achieved already through the previous 4 national action plans, such as the development of Kenya's Beneficial Ownership Register, a vital tool to tackle corruption and illicit finance, and I'm pleased to see further milestones on beneficial ownership in this 5th National Action Plan. It's now time to focus on implementation of those 9 commitments made. And the UK is supporting key milestones on beneficial ownership, open contracting, and public participation. Improving transparency and accountability is a continual process for all countries. Kenya has the advantage of an already vibrant civil society and a flourishing tech sector to support its journey by improving and innovating service delivery, taking on board feedback, and telling a positive and meaningful story of progress. The recent demands by Kenya's young people highlight the importance of trust between government and those they serve. The United Kingdom's relationship with Kenya is one of close friends, based on shared history, shared interests, and a determination to tackle shared challenges. We recognize the shared challenge of making progress on improved transparency and accountability in government, and we look forward to continuing to work with Kenya to implement the National Action Plan. We're going far together. Asante sana, and congratulations.
Thank you, Dr. Panett. Your Excellency, I'd like to recognize Her Excellency Cristina Diaz Fernandez, the Ambassador of Spain. Spain is taking over the global leadership of the OGP platform, and so we wanted to especially recognize them on this occasion. It's my pleasure now to invite the Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate, Amason Kingi. Welcome.
Thank you, Piers. Your Excellency, Dr. William Samoei Ruto, the President of the Republic of Kenya, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. There's no doubt that the launch of the 5th National Action Plan for the period 2023-2027 marks a commencement of yet another remarkable journey for the transforming service delivery in our country for the benefit of the people of Kenya. This plan represents a crucial step in our country's commitment to transparency, accountability, and citizen engagement. It focuses on key areas such as climate action, digital government, anti-corruption, and civic space, with the aim of fostering a more inclusive, responsive, and resilient government aligned with the Kenya Kwanza Manifesto. It is prudent for us to recall that the predecessor, that is the 4th National Action Plan, sought to institutionalize issues relating to welfare and rights of women, peace and security, through policy and ministries, counties, departments, and government agencies. Under the 4th plan, we boldly confronted climate change impact, violent extremism, gender-based violence, forced migration and human trafficking, and humanitarian disasters with remarkable outcomes. The success in the implementation of the OGP commitment in NAP4 and the continuing interventions provide us with the copybook springboard for implementation of NAP4. Without doubt, therefore, the new plan will enable us to build on the gains and momentum generated through the implementation of the previous national action plans. Your Excellency, allow me to briefly touch on the OGP commitment number 6 and 7, which has just been shown to us, that actually touch on the institution that I do represent, that is the Senate. And OGP commitment number 6 and 7, namely public participation, legislative and physical openness, the plan outlines the major objectives as being to enhance transparency, inclusion, and accountability in the legislative and budget processes, ensuring open and trusting relations between concerned stakeholders. Your Excellency, this commitment is anchored on Article 118 of the Constitution, which declares the Parliament shall facilitate public participation and involvement in the legislative and other businesses in Parliament, in the legislative through its committees and at plenary level. Similarly, Your Excellency, Article 174 of the Constitution, especially on devolution, it advocates for open, democratic, and accountability exercise of power and give the power of self-governance to the people and enhances the participation in the exercise of powers of the state and in making decisions that affect them. Now, to give life to these edicts of the Constitution, Parliament has enacted laws and approved policies and guidelines that have elevated the role of the citizen in decision-making and opened government processes and decisions to intense scrutiny. As the chaperone of devolution and Article 96 of the Constitution, the Senate has relentlessly mainstreamed transparency, inclusivity, and accountability in the legislative oversight and budget processes. Members of Parliament and senators working through plenary and House committees have remained diligent in holding county governments and national government and the leadership to account as they discharge their mandates. Your Excellency, one of the pieces of legislation that is extremely key in this regard, especially touching on OGB, on NAP 6 and 7, is public participation. The judiciary, through our courts, have pronounced themselves on this particular issue. The Senate has harvested quite a number of views from the judiciary, from other stakeholders, and through that, the Senate has managed to formulate a piece of legislation called the Public Participation Bill. That bill has gone through all the stages in Parliament. It is now at the second stage in the National Assembly. And I believe that piece of legislation, one passed and assented to by the President, will put to rest the issue of public participation. Your Excellency, if you will recall, 95% of the cases against government that are lying in the judiciary are all about public participation. That the citizens were not given enough time, that the stakeholders were not given ample time to make their case or to contribute to what government intended to do, whether through policy or through law. And I believe, therefore, that once that piece of legislation is passed, we will see very minimal, if any, cases being taken to the judiciary. Again, under OGP NAP number 7, that is access to information, Your Excellency. I'll give you a very practical experience why it is important for us as government to run away with these commitments that have been given here, the 9 commitments, especially on the access to information. Yesterday, Your Excellency, I was flying from Mombasa to Nairobi at 3:45. And as I was waiting for the delayed flight, of course, because of the strike, I had the opportunity to engage with KAA staff. And I asked them, why are you on strike? Your Excellency, I was not given any tangible reason other than the fact that there is a lot of information they had heard and picked from the social media. And because of that information and acting on that information on the social media, they went on strike. That is what I was told. Meaning, as a government, if we commit to have this information get to the people before the social media culprits take this information to the people, and you know, Your Excellency, most of the social media information is a fact not verified. And this is where most of our citizens pick information, pick facts, and act on those facts. So again, with this commitment, I believe as government, if we can be able to be committed and be able to package or to unpackage this information to our citizens long before the keyboard warriors take that space, we will not be able to see what we have seen today. Now, Your Excellency, I was listening to our government spokesperson yesterday, and I talked to quite a number of people after his press conference. Many Kenyans believe that this government has negotiated and signed a deal with Adani. But the position is no such deal, no such contract has been signed. But this information was not given to the public. It was left to keyboard warriors. So again, with these commitments, Your Excellency, I believe as government, if we can be able to commit to these commitments that have been given here, then the kind of misinformation that is there will be a thing in the past. Your Excellency, you know exactly what we went through with the finance bill. Again, misinformation. The finance bill was the best piece of a bill. It was a document that was going to take this country far. But because of misinformation, because citizens maybe were not engaged enough, we had to shelf an otherwise good document. So again, Your Excellency, with these action plans, with these commitments, especially commitment number 6 and 7, if we can be able to run away with it as government, we will see very minimal of the kind of upheavals that we've witnessed as a country for the few days. Allow me, in conclusion, Your Excellency, as I conclude, allow me to commend the drafters of NAP 5 for retaining climate action as a priority number 1 in the new implementation phase. Your Excellency, you are the teacher in this field. You are the ambassador, the African ambassador in this particular field. There can never be a better opportunity to put this commitment as number 1 than now. And therefore, the implementation, the phenomenal climate change impacts remain of great concern and deserving of our full attention, given the devastation they continue to wreak on our society. As global temperatures soar, drought become prolonged, and frequent flooding more intense in scope. Your Excellency, I sat listening to you during the climate summit, the African Climate Summit, and there's no better person who can put this case in a more compelling manner than you, Your Excellency. And therefore, I believe that having this as commitment number 1 gives you that relevance as we engage Africa to make sure that Africa takes this particular commitment with the seriousness it deserves. Your Excellency, let me leave it there. And therefore, with these few remarks, Your Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you most sincerely for giving the Senate to share some thoughts with you in this journey. And I want to believe that if all of us present here commit to the implementation of these 9 commitments, next year, or the second phase, as we sit here to review the implementation of the 9 commitments that have been given today, if all of us purpose to walk the journey, then we'll make not just Kenya a better place, but this continent and the world at large. I thank you.
Let's put our hands together for the Right Honorable Speaker of the Senate. Thank you very much. Well, we are now at that pivotal moment. I want to invite Aidan Eyakuze, who will engage His Excellency the President of the Republic of Kenya on a conversation around what's famously known as a fireside chat. While the stage is being set, Your Excellency, I want to acknowledge the representative of the National Assembly in the person of Honorable Beatrice Elachi. I also, Your Excellency, want to humbly recognize the representative of our judiciary in the person of Justice Sergon. Thank you very much. I thank you. It's my pleasure now to invite Aidan Eyakuze. Aidan is a board member of the Open Government Partnership International Board, and he's also a very distinguished actor within civil society. Welcome, Aidan. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm mic'd up. Mr. President, would you like to come on the stage with me? It's good to meet you. I bring greetings from Tanzania.
Thank you very much. Welcome to Kenya.
Thank you. Please. Wow. Good morning. This is a real honor. I started my professional career in this country, so it's great to be back. We've heard some fantastic presentations about the National Action Plan number 5, 9 great commitments. What they didn't tell you, my friends Caroline and Mushiri, is this is really hard work. And Dr. Korir knows how hard this work is to transform the relationship between governments and citizens. So my first question to you is to understand personally your vision for open government in Kenya. Why do you want to do such hard work? And you've been involved in it as Deputy President, now as President. Why? What's in it for you? What's in it for Kenya?
Thank you very much, Aidan. Everybody else made a statement. I don't know why I'm the only one answering questions.
Because this is open government. No prepared statements.
Well, let me just, maybe by way of contextualizing why we are here, is that, as you have heard, the Open Government Partnership Framework was conceptualized in 2011. Kenya became a member in 2012. We were among the first countries to join this framework because of our belief in openness and running an open government. When I came into office as Deputy President, I took it up as one of the deliverables of the administration that we were running. When you ask me the question, what is in it for us now? If you look at the bottom-up economic transformation agenda, it is about inclusivity. It is about people who traditionally have not been in the equation. And that is why we're saying the millions at the bottom of the pyramid, who sometimes, most times, are left behind, must this time round be in the frame, be in the equation. And therefore, inclusivity brings an element of openness. And it is the reason why, as an administration, we want to push forward with the Open Government Partnership, because it speaks to all the tenets that we believe in. It speaks to the issues of digitalization. It's the reason why we are digitizing now 17,000 government services to democratize government information, availability of government information to citizens. And we believe that open government enhances transparency, enhances accountability, and empowers citizens to be able to make decisions. Those three things are very important. Transparency improves trust in government. Accountability makes sure that resources meant for public good is not spent on other things. And number 3, bringing citizens into the equation gives them the power to make decisions and to inform government policy.
let me take you up on one of the things that you're mentioning there. Sometimes open government and what you just described can feel very distant to the ordinary Kenyan citizen. It can feel very abstract. One of the steering committee members a few years ago said, from Nigeria, said, how do you make open government put a chicken in every pot? How do you make open government real for people so that they can feel that their lives are actually improving from this approach to government? So maybe my specific question is, please share with us some really specific measures that your administration is taking and will take to strengthen economic governance and to ensure transparency and accountability in the management of public resources and public debt. What are the specific measures you're doing for that?
I have made a commitment, and you've heard the Speaker of Senate say, we did agree that public participation is not a sterile provision of the Constitution. It must amount to something. And it is the reason why we've been grappling as a nation, how do we actualize public participation? We are now working on legislation, as you've heard. In a couple of months, we should now have a framework that contextualizes, creates a framework for citizens to meaningfully participate in enacting policy, enacting legislation, and every act of government that requires the public to participate in. That is number one. Number two, we have now work at the Attorney General's office, and I want to ask the civil society who are present here to work with the Attorney General as we improve 3 pieces of legislation. Number one, improve legislation on Evidence Act so that we can deal with matters corruption in the shortest time possible. Improve legislation on e-procurement and make government procurement open, including making sure that it is in the public domain which contracts have been awarded, for how much money, to which companies. And so that the public can judge for themselves whether they are getting value for money or they are being taken for a ride. I have made that commitment. The work is in the Attorney General's office. I welcome Zalendo. I welcome all the other civil society groups to participate in bringing this legislation to the fore. And I'm very happy with this framework because the civil society that is present here would have chosen to come here with vuvuzela and placards. But they have chosen...
Sometimes they might still have to do that.
but they've come here to say, okay, what are the challenges that we have? How do we meaningfully contribute, institutionalize the solutions rather than ponder on the problems, on the challenges? How do we institutionalize solutions? How do we bring legislation? How do we create institutions? How do we put a policy framework in place? And you have said yourself, it's easy to pontificate about the challenges we have.
Yeah.
It is difficult to frame the solutions. I am very happy with open government partnership. It gives us an opportunity with the judiciary, with the legislature, with the executive, with civil society, with the private sector to figure out how we solve problems together. And this is why I believe in this framework.
Some of your, okay, I won't mention names, might think you're a heretic to be so welcoming of civil society and private sector in government and in governance. Let's shift a little bit. 4 of the 9 commitments have a tech element to them. So let's talk about, and Kenya really is a leader in the region, maybe in the continent, on matters technological. So, but tech also has, as was mentioned here, some real challenges, and misinformation was mentioned by the Speaker of the Senate. It also creates great opportunities to create wealth. So how is your administration harnessing these tech-driven opportunities? And how do you plan to balance those opportunities and grabbing them with mitigating the risks that come with technology, as was outlined?
I agree with you 100%. Technology all the way to artificial intelligence gives us great opportunities, but also has a good measure of challenges. And I will give you 2 examples how we are taking advantage of technology. Number 1, we rolled out the Hustler Fund. 12 billion shillings in it already. 22 million Kenyans are beneficiaries. Today we have 2 million Kenyans every day borrowing from the Hustler Fund. It is delivered on a technology platform. It is the single government project that has no corruption, because technology has provided the framework to make sure that we insulate it from, just imagine, if we were distributing or giving out Hustler Fund using committees at every location, it would be hell. Mm-hmm. It would be chaos. But look at what technology has done. It has made it seamless, it has made it transparent, it's made it easy. Let me also give you another example. Means testing instrument. Again, when we are giving out our university funding model, means testing instrument that is run on technology is giving us the leverage to be able to know which student can benefit from what. Let me also tell you one more thing, that in our plan to deal with the challenges that face us, the demographic dividend that we have, one of the items that we are working on is how we are going to use technology to create digital jobs. As I speak to you, we have close to 120,000 young people in our TVETs and in other institutions that today monetize their digital expertise. So we are leveraging on technology to create jobs tomorrow. I will be signing an agreement with President Scholz in Germany, again, to leverage on technology to access opportunities for Kenyans to work in Germany physically or to work in Germany through a digital platform. So we are leveraging on the digital space to create jobs, to deliver government services, as I said, with the Hustler Fund, to make sure that it helps us, assists us sort out challenges that we have. But also, there are challenges.
Yeah.
The finance bill became a victim of fake news, disinformation, misinformation, and unfortunately, that's what it is. And as has been said here correctly, while building the ecosystem to leverage on technology and the digital space for advancement, there will be challenges. It is the reason why we are discussing now with Parliament on how to enact regulations on AI, regulations around the digital space to make sure that the negative, misinformation, disinformation, fake news does not rob us of the opportunity to use technology to drive our development. Because I am a great believer that technology